It's time for Ask Mike Mondays. Mike answers one listener's question every week. Here's Michael Becker and Paul Peebles.
Welcome to Ask Mike Mondays. I'm your host, Paul Peebles, National Underwriter for Old Capital. And joining me today, the smartest guy in the room, Michael Becker.
Hey, Paul.
Michael, who owns over 4,600 unit apartment doors in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, has about $85 million in equity raised by investors that have put their money into his transactions and up to his eyeballs in debt.
Yep. Good debt, though.
Good. In this Ask Mike Monday, there's a question that came up, which I thought was a pretty good question, because a lot of people that are not familiar with how commercial real estate works and who represents who, that's probably a good one for us to kind of talk a little bit about. So the question on Ask Mike Mondays is, Mike, can you explain the broker process for commercial real estate? It seems like all the deals happen off market. So is the agent representing both parties, or is there some other arrangement?
Yeah. So simple answer is really who pays the fee is typically who the broker represents. So if you think about it, it's kind of the market deals and the off market deals. The market deals, the broker clearly represents the seller of the transaction. The seller pays his fee, and they have fiduciary responsibility to the seller. In an off-market situation, it really kind of depends on who pays the fee and who they represent. So typically it's the seller that pays the fee, so the broker would represent the seller and have fiduciary responsibility to the seller. In reality, the broker is just kind of the intermediary in these deals, and the broker doesn't get paid until the deal closes, so they really want to make sure that they're there playing intermediary, making sure that they take care of all the needs it's going to take for the buyer to go through the diligence process, get the loan approved, and then ultimately close on the loan. So the broker is really kind of the advocate. While they have fiduciary responsibility to the seller, they're really kind of the advocate of the deal, and they want to make sure that they take the concerns and any sort of issues that the buyer has and try to mediate some sort of resolution with a potential seller.
Yeah, one of the things that I see in the multifamily side is that the listing agent, again, represents the seller of the property. But sometimes, they'll get a fee involved from the seller, but they will not share it. There's really not a buyer's broker typically in the multifamily space, where on single family, you usually have a seller broker and then a buyer's broker. In multifamily, you just have kind of a seller's broker, and you don't have a buyer's broker. So if there's a fee that's going to be generated, sometimes that fee that from the buyer, that you as the borrower have to pay the buyer's representation fee. So sometimes the seller's broker does not share that fee. So just in the back of your mind, think that your person who represents you is not going to get paid unless you pay them. Yeah,
typically you become uncompetitive and your offer somehow gets to the bottom of the stack if you try to ask them to split a fee. So typically if there are such things as buyer brokers in the multifamily space. They're just kind of uncommon. But if you do happen to have one, then typically it's a responsibility of your group, and it's a charge to the deal, a charge in the syndication. When you go raise money, they pay the buyer broker their commission in the deal. So that's typically how these deals work, and usually we're talking a larger dollar amount. So usually most people involved are a little bit more on the sophisticated side. So that's just kind of how the business works. And Paul says there's not the co-sharing fee where a typical residential house will have a 6% commission split 3 and 3. It's just not how it works in the commercial space.
Yep, I think that's some good information. Anything more, Mike, we should talk about?
If you guys like the podcast, certainly a rating and review on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud would always be appreciated. If you want to know more information about kind of how these transactions get put together, go to the oldcapitalpodcast.com website, and you can find the white paper, the Multifamily Financing 101, as well I like to call it, as well as a sample due diligence checklist. Paul, do we have anything coming up event-wise?
October 5th, we're about to announce that, kick that off. We'll probably announce that next week or two, but do a saving of the date on October 5th in Dallas. It's going to be a great event, so we'll talk a little bit about that in about 2 weeks. So we appreciate everybody listening to Ask Mike Mondays with the smartest guy in the room, Michael Becker. Have a great day.